Hello, and welcome to part 3 of my story about COVID in Cape Town, South Africa during 2020-2021. So this is part 3. I've talked a little bit about what happened to us as a population. I can't remember the dates, but it was towards the end of our winter. We're in the southern hemisphere, so obviously our winter is June, July, August. And what I haven't really gone into much detail is my own personal situation financially. Is I have said that I had commercial insurance, which was supposed to, it was so black and white if you read through the policy. And the insurance companies were all worldwide trying to not pay for COVID. And so you had all these court cases worldwide. The insurance company that I was with lost their court case eventually. What they did is they paid us 12 2/3% of that money that I mentioned that I thought I was going to get of 420,000 rand. They paid 49,000, worked out exactly 12 2/3%. And they lost the court case and they were instructed to pay the full amount. So I thought I was going to get the full amount. It's natural. If what's happened to one person must then logically happen to everybody else. And they carried on with the fight. Because they would only pay you if you had put that amount of money into your bank account during the 6 months of COVID. Now, when I first started the business formally, so it would have been during 2013 or early 2014, I went to my bank and I said to them, all right, I need a card machine to get payments from my guests. They said to me, that's 2,000 Rand a month for you to use a card machine. What? Because if I was doing a turnover of, say, 20,000 Rand, 2,000 Rand a month is 10% of what I'm getting. And it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy to hold out that kind of money. It's ridiculous. Even in dollars, what would it be at an exchange rate of 20 to 1 would be $100 a month just to have a card machine. Absolutely crazy. So I explained to all of my guys that stayed in my house, please, you've got to give me cash because it just cost me too much to get the card payments. And my rates were reasonable, very reasonable. Nobody objected. But of course, you're not going to go and take all of that cash and put it into the bank. I would use cash to go and pay what I had to pay for. I'd pay my maid with cash. I'd actually only put enough cash into my bank to pay my debit orders that came off at the end of the month. And I'd keep the rest of the money in the safe. It cost you too much money just to go and deposit the cash as well. I mean, bank charges are huge in this country. But the bottom line is I never got paid out anything of the balance of that money. There were huge fights, huge stories. I can remember my insurance broker resigning. She just said she was crying every day of her life because all of her clients were, so upset. And if you stayed in business or not really depended a lot on how people treated you. For instance, if you had a restaurant, if you were renting, if your landlord said to you, leave the rent through that lockdown period, the 6 months that we went through, 4 months, whatever it was, because there was no trade, then it became takeaway only, and you might only do 10% of the business you would have normally done. So it was a very long period of very bad trade. If people helped you financially, you could get through. But the government didn't help anybody at all. And this is what I want to finish with. Is Ramaphosa, our president, had stated that they saw COVID as an opportunity to create a new ownership of South Africa's economy. You can imagine that the white people in this country are the big owners of the economy. And so if something like COVID comes along and we go broke, it's giving an opportunity for new owners to come in. So no help was given by the government at all to any business. It was only the people that worked in this country, and they had to give that money. Otherwise, most of this country would have starved, and there would have been riots. So they had to give that money, that 3,500 rand a month. But there was not 1 cent given to any business owner or anything like that. And now, in my own instance, I thought I had insurance, which would help me get through this whole story. Fortunately, when COVID was around, I had a fairly substantial bank balance that, as we progressed through this whole COVID story, the tourism sector didn't recover. I knew of 2 people that came to Cape Town in December of 2020. They were hard timers, basically, kite surfers that come every year for the 3 months. They can do it. They work online, etc., etc. So it doesn't affect their business lives, but they come because it is one of the best kite surfing places in the world. I think that beach was probably the busiest kite surfing beach in the world. You know, if you compared it to other countries, because my guests basically came from Europe, like one of the women, she'd worked for Lufthansa for about 20 years, and obviously Lufthansa was closed down. And how she told me it worked in Germany is that the government paid 60% of her salary because the government had closed down Germany. And Lufthansa had paid 20% of her salary. So in total, she got 80% of her salary. That's easy enough to survive on. In South Africa, you got 3,500 rand. End of story. It didn't matter who you were. Okay. But I watched other people that I know. One person in Switzerland, within a few weeks of lockdown being implemented in Switzerland, he'd been paid out. It was 2 or 3 months. It was a percentage of his business's turnover, 60% or 70%. I can't remember the exact amount, but it was a couple of 100,000 Swiss francs. And a Swiss franc is basically equal to a euro. Got himself an absolute fortune. If you're in Monaco, they paid you. If you're in the restaurant trade, I think it also was 60 or 70% of your normal turnover. You were not buying any food, but you could pay all of your staff, you could pay your rent, you could pay all of those other things. In the States, what were you getting? 1,500 US dollars, as far as I can remember, per month for not being able to work, which at 20 rand for $1 would equate to 30,000 rand a month. We were getting 3,500 rand. So all of the first world countries that implemented lockdowns helped all of their population, not only the workers, but also the business owners, everything else like that. Of course, another country like Brazil just said, no, we're not locking down. It meant that the business owners in South Africa, and especially those in the hospitality industry, unless your insurance did pay you out and you would have had to take them to court, you got nothing from government. You know, and then government made another mistake, is when they put us into this harsh lockdown, all we're allowed to do is go out to buy food or medicine. Things go wrong. You're sitting in your house and the geyser bursts. Now what do? You've got to get a plumber, right? And where does the plumber get a geyser from? because all of these businesses have been shut down. When we were having the harshest of the lockdown, it's winter in Cape Town. The storm comes, your roof blows off your house. Who do you get to come and replace your roof because you're not allowed to go out? It can be worse for the municipality. I'm living there by the beach, and your sewerage all goes downhill, down towards the sea, and you've got pump stations every however many kilometers, whatever it is, apart from each other. And those pump stations have to pump the sewage uphill into the water treatment plants. The pump station breaks down. What happens? We're in lockdown. You can't put a country into complete lockdown. It's impossible. So they started having to make all of these moves as how the business would have to apply through a certain website, giving reasons why they want to have staff out on the road going to certain places, just to fix things that had to be fixed. In my opinion, our government handled COVID very, very badly. It cost the government money, but it certainly cost the private sector money. It cost me a lot of money. And I think there was a lot of arrogance by the government, how they treated this whole COVID story. It gave them an opportunity to absolutely put their control on us. And they loved it. Every single second, they loved it, telling us exactly what to do and how to live. Yet, I don't think it was necessary. Our hospitals never overflowed. We were never in a situation that the measures that were taken were saving lives. Like I said, COVID wasn't strong enough for Africa. Most of Africa, I don't think, went into lockdown. And I don't think there were many African countries that were severely impacted. It certainly happened in Europe, and it certainly happened in North America. And in China, I know COVID was back in force earlier on this year because the people had not built up any immunity because of how it was handled. All right, that's my story about COVID. Thank you very much for watching.